Hey everyone.
Well, hello. We'll be shortly starting. I know it's Friday afternoon or early morning, depending on where you're coming from, but please allow us with 2 to 3 minutes for all the participants to join the call. And you can let us know in a chat section or question sections if you can hear me properly. Just would appreciate the heads up. All good.
Okay. I see the questions coming in. Okay. And the chat looks working.
Yes, I can see more and more people coming, and we'll be starting on time, not to keep you on the line for too long, taking into consideration the Friday timing. Okay, Nikolai, I think it's right about the time, and I'm happy to say welcome to everyone that decided to spend that time with us. It's our privilege, and we're very excited to start the sessions on the data science for gambling and FTP games. So industry-dedicated webinars. And the first episode is going to discuss in-app analytics and the fundamentals for the analytics for the gambling industry. And the reason why we decided to have this topic is because of my conversations with Nikolai. Myself, I'm responsible for the business development, mostly within software as a service area. My all professional work was related to customer experience, including the CRM, marketing automation, DMP platforms, CDP in the future. Also, I'm the vivid poker player, so I managed to win 100 euros one time online tournament. Very happy with that. And if I was not only living in Poland, I would still continue my online poker careers. However, unfortunately, it's banned here. On the other hand, we have Nikolai, that is our head of data engineering department. He has lots of experience with the data science because he was running the data science department in Visor Interactive, which is the gambling company from Belarus. And now he's also heading the architecture sessions with our clients, and he's the head of the implementations, the projects. We'll share more about the implementations later in that session. However, at this point in time, as we're having this live session, I wanted to ask a bit about your expectations, because we could steer the conversation more towards the business, marketing related cases, or jump straight ahead to Nikolai to have this data analytics, technological engineering part more. So let us know within the questions, maybe type in 1 for more marketing, 2 for more technology, data engineering, so we'll know how to shape this presentation for you. Also, while I wait for the answers, I want to let you know that this session is being recorded. We'll send you the transcript of it, so you could share it within your organization. And also, we're looking forward into having the conversations one-to-one in the topic that would be interested to you in particular. Also, please note that in 1 week time, we're going to have episode number 2 of this session that is going to focus on enriching the data. So more advanced use cases for the data analytics. Let me see the slide.
Adam,
yes.
While we're waiting for people to share the feedback or expectations, I just wanted to chime in and introduce myself. That I am on the opposite side of gambling. I never took odds at any game. I prefer more reasonable approach. That's probably why I became data scientist, analyst. But I like people and social interactions and modeling these things. So I try to put best of my knowledge here to share with you, and I hope my part, being technical, will be also a bit interesting to people who work with user acquisition and not as much as technical as it could be, and I will orient on your expectations there.
Perfect. So to me, at least, it makes sense to combine both of these parts. And as I see the voices coming, saying a bit of this, a bit of that. So let's stick to the original plan. And just, I wanted to let you know that we're reading the questions and reading the chat. So we could have the interactive session here. If you just let us know the feedback, we're looking forward. You may be wondering why we wanted to combine the gambling and free-to-play games. And the reason for that is because we find that falling under the same category of the online trends, and on the other hand, also the digital marketing approaches. Therefore, let me jump straight into the trends that I'm talking about. So 2021 brought many changes, not only COVID related, however, also in regards to the data privacy. There is lots of changes going on with the cookieless world, with the Google updates in their policies. So many marketers, if not most of the marketers, are saying that owning the data is their major priority. And first-party data cheapens the necessary market research. And on the other hand, it also, with the third-party cookie limitations, classic targeting will become more and more expensive. This is what is bringing lots of considerations into owning the data. Another point into the trends that we find relevant for gambling is the simplicity of experience. The bettors, gamers, are very well known to be to have short span in their attention. So this is why they require very simple experience. And when the experience is simple, then it raises the loyalty. And whoever deals with the marketing, they know that it's far cheaper to retain the client that you already have than to acquire the new one. Users also tend to fade away from the competing apps, and at the end, they leave only a couple of their favorites apps in their mobile phones. So in conclusion, owning the data, simplicity of experience, and driving the loyalty seems to be very important steps for the gambling for this year and the upcoming days. However, if that was that easy to introduce, then we wouldn't be discussing, we wouldn't be having this webinar right now. Technology complexity is huge. There are many data silos within the organizations. So client data sitting in various CRM, marketing automation systems, their internal, external, there is the data that is residing online, some of that could be combined offline. So this huge complexity also is resulting the lack of confidence in your data. So our clients were pointing out that there is no clear reporting line and no data that they could rely on, at least before they run the proper cleansing data warehousing project. So this is why this lack of confidence in the data is staying in contradiction of simplicity of experience that I was discussing previously. Finally, what stands on the way to loyalty is lack of unified user experience. And for gamers, especially important is that lack of unified user experience is causing latency. And with the sports betting, with the gambling, it's very crucial that speed and eliminating lags are critical, because this real time is somehow very important to players, gamblers. Proactive monitoring seems like a good strategy to address this step. So what our experience with the implementation of the similar projects that are to address the trends and challenges is with the Stride Gaming, that is the bingo operator coming from United Kingdom. So their major KPI and each interest was to understand who are the people that are going to make a first deposit. This is the main KPI of the Stride Gaming. That's why we introduced the LTV modeling, and the accuracy of the people that are going to pay more than $100 at the first deposit is 88%. So we're able to tell which of the people are going to bet $100 and more dollars. And with that model, we prepared the optimized bidding strategy for search ads. So we're able to determine the amount of the money to be spent on worthy clients, and also to reduce the spend on those clients that are not going to make the significant first deposit. So in a result, we increased the conversion rate and decreased cost per acquisition. You may be wondering how this use case was determined, and this is through our consultative approach. So what we try to do is outline the processes, map the things to be done by the clients, and then to work towards the KPI that the management and the marketing managers determine. So for today, we're going to focus mostly on the left side of this chart, so on the basics. And in a 1 week time, we're going to discuss more advanced tactics around customer data platform, mixed media modeling, and something that we call maybe data enrichment tactics. But getting back to today, we're going to discuss the problem positioning. So how to determine the analytics approach. First of all, this is something we recommend to our clients, is to prepare the solid data fundamentals project. This is mostly done with the applications like Google Analytics, Firebase, AppsFlyer. So to build this solid basis for the future models that would be determined in other channels of communication. At step 2, we're wondering what should be the investment. So how much are you going to pay to acquire the new customer? So that requires the solid customer data foundation, and later on the considerable budget to acquire these clients. And finally, we never stop at this stage, because we always think how to improve further. And for that, we believe the feedback loop is very essential. We're going to provide the personalized in-app experience, smart predictive bidding, and will determine the channels for the adoption of the before mentioned strategies. So, in essence, for today's webinar, we're going to meet to focus on who your audience is at step 1, and at step 2, we're going to determine the tactics that are mapped to specific points in the life cycle of the prospect. When it comes to meeting your audience, for sure, you're coming from different companies, and we can help you determine what your segments of people, segments of your clients are in particular. However, for the gambling industry and for the free-to-play games, we determine 4 groups that somehow are a representation of the whole market. First of all, we see that there are the casual gamers on the market. They play time to time, so it's good to incorporate the strategies into their daily lives. Experience for them must be very easy. So companies should rather avoid the requests and early on commitments. So you want to make it as simple as possible for these guys. Then there are the casual gamblers that are mostly the fans of their team sports. So they're not looking for the high odds playing or big investments. However, they like the social interaction, talking between each other, cheering up their teams. So they're going to bet from time to time. Next, we have a competitive gamblers. And these guys are rather professionals. So they're looking for the high odds. They're very competitive players. So companies should avoid one-size-fits-all experience, blurry cash-out mechanisms, because the payouts is something that these guys care the most about. Finally, we have the long-odd gamblers that are high-risk takers and would like to get rich fast. So the advice for them is to avoid generate betting experience and low payouts, because this is not something that is going to attract them. So after you have determined your audience, you're going to think what are the steps in the life cycle of their customer journey. And for the gambling, we see, first of all, there is the stage of building the awareness. Users know little or none about your company. Then to move to second stage, they need to convert, meaning they will install the app, download the mobile app on their device. Later, there is the stage of trial or the registration. And at this point, they're going to share personal information, provide the first commitment, because bringing the personal information is something that they need to invest in the relation with the company. In exchange, they will receive some goods so they can play the game without extra money. And conversion to next step is very essential, because then we're coming to the first deposit or the first micropayment. So this is when the companies can set some kind of incentive coupon or a voucher to make it more likely to happen. Later, there are the second payments, next micropayments, and this is where the loyalty starts to plug in. Finally, we hope that after the positive experience of the second and next deposits, they will become the long-term users and ideally delete all other competing apps from their devices. And now you may wonder, why actually we did this segmentation and this pipeline of specific steps on their lifetime journey. And this is exactly why we did it, because we wanted to say what message to provide to which player at which step of his journey. So here is the matrix that you will later on study in details. However, for this presentation, what is most interesting is what we could do on these specific steps. So for the competitive gamblers and long-term gamblers, at the acquisition stage, there is the lookalike audiences that could be used when the proper data science, data fundamentals are set in place. And also the scenarios that we often discuss with our clients is the retainer in-app offers, upgrading to higher tiers, and finally the recommendations. So this is something that will drive the long-term usage and overall the loyalty. And how to get to that point will be discussed by Mikolaj. So Mikolaj, I will share with you the screening rights and would like to ask you to take over this presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. So I think you should be able to see my screen now.
Correct.
Okay, so just to continue where Adam left, this strategic approach to user acquisition and knowledge of users is very important. And of course, as we mentioned, there are many prerequisites to good analytics to establish the nice pipeline of user acquisition and support user journey in your app inside this funnel once you acquire users. So just to recollect our use case, which we will use as an example in this scenario, is why do we need a predicted lifetime value? And the most obvious reason from the table which Adam shared previously is to acquire lookalike users. Not all, but users who are projected to bring more value to the app, and not just predict the lifetime value. It's important to also activate on this value to change the marketing strategy, user acquisition strategy accordingly to bring more such high value users as timely as possible. And this solution is usually done by first assembling the data about user behavior, about the context of a user, then doing some machine learning, coming to a range of values or one value indicating the amount of possible projected spend, and then using it adequately for user acquisition. And in this example scenario, we will use universal app campaigns in Google Ads as activation scenario. Of course, there are many more different other platforms or networks where users can be bought, but just for the sake of simplicity, we will use the Google's platform here, which supports smart bidding campaigns, for instance, target cost per acquisition. And this last letter in this abbreviation is actually the value which we are going to share to search ads, to Google Ads framework, so that this system can play its background data, its understanding of users, and find more high valued users for your app. And later on, we will share the roadmap to implement such scenario. But before that, I'd like to revisit the steps which are necessary to implement such a workflow in your app, and which may be obvious already for many of participants of this webinar, but important, and let's revisit them. So all kinds of advanced analytics usually start with understanding of your position in the market, of your position among users and the basics of user behavior within the app. So data collection and basic understanding of trends external to the app and internal is a must at this stage. And very important to continue to the next stage to understand more details about what is happening. So from descriptive analytics, you're usually transiting to diagnostic to more detailed drill down analysis of all features and behaviors and positions of your app. And this is probably use case, the step of analytics journey, which most of the companies have by default by using certain analytical tools like AppsFlyer or Firebase. So many others, even the Google Analytics has a good functionality towards this use case. So we consider it as a given at this point, and a necessary prerequisite to start a more advanced predictive analytics use case, which answers to the question, what will happen, what the situation will be given certain factors. And lifetime value prediction or event prediction is just two examples of the predictive analytics, which can span many different other use cases like churn prediction and offers prediction for in-app. Some other gameplay scenario can be predicted and adjusted in some very advanced implementations. And the final destination of whole this journey and endeavor is a prescriptive analytics. It's the most advanced scenario which tries to propose decisions, not just predicted values, but actions which need to be done to prevent certain situations or facilitate certain behavior. For instance, once you predicted the churn possibility for a user, it's good to follow this up by predicting the best offer and make a retention offer in the best time, in the best possible way to a user. So this advanced use case is a desired target for many companies trying to keep their active users aloft, trying to keep them engaged and interested in the game. And personally, on my personal account, I followed all these steps, but not from bottom to the top, but rather from top to bottom, which is peculiar because being a data scientist myself, I started immediately from the topmost use case, very advanced prediction and offer implementation within the app. And only after moving through different implementations and gaining my experience, I realized that all preceding steps are equally, if not more important to achieve a good quality result. So in the end, moving down this ladder helps to establish the analytical workflow at your company, which facilitates such crucial decisions. And ultimately, you will want to see all your chiefs of analytics, all your user acquisition managers settle down not in the topmost use case, but at the bottommost use case, trend spotting, where they will analyze a global trend, develop the vision, develop the awareness of the global situation around the app, around the competitors, and help make this strategic moves, which are then executed by a smart analytics team by facilitated with algorithms. So that's my vision of this plan. and I hope it will help you to navigate this problem. So let me take a pause here, and I'll start with just a very quick introduction to what is machine learning and what is this tool, brand new, which we're going to apply to our problem of predicting lifetime value. Many people think that machine learning is just kind of magic. You have mountains upon mountains of data, and you have a bunch of algorithms which you throw at this data, shovel them, mix them nicely, and by some magic, these tools provide you with the correct answers to your problem. But in reality, data science, machine learning are more strict approaches. They are sciences after all, and require careful planning and attention, and how to understanding of many details of the data, work with them. So no problem has a solution without good preparation. So before we begin with advanced machine learning, it's better to check your basics. Like if there is automated data collection in place, which eliminates manual work from your team and allows more time to be spent on analysis, on modeling the data. And if models are built with consistent understanding of the data, of the processes and context, what is more important, and make reproducible results. For instance, if you train model on a yearly special event data on special occasions like sales and so on, it's not going to perform as expected on the more low season data and on an entirely different user base. And apart from this, you need to be sure that the models are scaling up to allow for increased traffic, which is surprisingly not many companies understand or realize until they see an increase in the users for the app, thanks to this advanced user acquisition and thanks to better modeling and analytics. And not model is doing any good without a proper activation, of course. So you need to remember that the end state of all this journey is to do something useful with the model, not just to do a modeling or scientific experiment per se. And once you've done this, monitoring of models is important to keep track of this health and situation. So the whole process, as I described already, is straightforward, from data collection, data preparation and feature engineering, training models, not one, but multiple models with multiple parameters, and evaluating them, picking the parameters again, training and evaluating, and finally arriving at a set of best performing models which are tuned and tested on unseen data. This process is pretty much straightforward, and it's usually executed very well at most of companies, thanks to modern tools and automations. But one thing I want to stress here is that every step of this process is cyclic. So data preparation is cyclic in itself. Once you prepare data, you evaluate the statistics and constantly answer the question, is the data right? Is the data collection complete and reflecting the real situation? Same process repeatedly is done for training models and of course for evaluating models. So you never stop learning, you never stop evaluating, and this whole process repeats in a grand loop. So new models come in place of older ones. They require better data or more data, and the process repeats continues. To the most crucial part of this whole process, engineering. Models can be different, but feature engineering is one of important steps of this whole process, and it usually stays constant because it is tied to your users, it is tied to your product, your app, specific events occurring, and etc. So it's very important to nail it down correctly. When we speak of features, we need to introduce first what is features, what is feature engineering, because usually what everybody of us analysts observes are events. This is an example of events from Firebase, from Google Analytics. They're very similar in this regard. So we look at these bars, the counts of events over time, and usually we observe a very random behavior, and it's hard to understand what's going on there. So to make this event analytics more structured, of course, we need to identify every event as of particular type. So then we can analyze them in a more structured way. And accordingly, we have two types of analytics emerging. One is event analytics, which looks at the sequences of events of particular kind, and events of different kinds for the same user are arriving one by one, so they can be analyzed by precedence factors. And also events of the same kind of the same user can be grouped in a collection and analyzed by looking at their similarities and differences according to certain features of events themselves or according to their distribution over time. And this kind of analytics is called feature analytics, which is a different variant. So let's first deal with event analytics. And to structure this process, usually all applications, all analytical programs arrive at the notion of funnel. Funnel is a way to analyze events from start to the end of every user session, let's say from the launching the app and till some reasonable stopping point. And events of the same user group who started the app are collected two bins of each particular event type aligned in a sequence of the user flow, how this should be, how this is expected to be in the app dynamics, and analyzed how this number of events diminishes with time. So obviously not all users who launch the app complete the single app or do the product view or do the first deposit. And by studying how many users drop in each step, this could be steps of tutorial in the app, this could be intro steps. By analyzing this flow, it's possible to pinpoint this some difficult situations which need to further attention in the app mechanics or in the interface. And it's a basic analytics which is given. But to understand these gray drop-offs at each bar, usually it's not enough data to predict which of the in-app events caused certain behavior, why the user did not complete the purchase. Maybe there was a certain difficulty not recorded. Maybe it was caused by a sequence of events repeatedly, not by just one of them. So it's really hard to judge what is the reasons for a particular behavior, but it's good to spot the situations in the app. So this is a default way of analytics of Firebase. It considers events as its basic item, as basic objects of analysis. And Firebase has many good functionalities into it, including the predictions, including the functionality to predict some events, but it is using just timestamp data and event type data. So it's not fully in capacity to do advanced predictions. Hopefully, we have a feature engineering at our disposal, and the feature engineering tries to address the prediction scenario in a bit different way. Events are as usually organized by the same type, but they are also containing statistics, some features which are aggregated of each event. For instance, user values can be used as such features, and for each event, for the whole set of users completing the event, these metrics can be analyzed in an aggregated manner. And then we will be in position to see that, for instance, users who completed the event and moved to the next steps are more low spender users by the relative proportion than the high spender users. So this is absolutely an example taken out of my head, but just for the sake of introducing the problem. When we do understand the underlying distribution of some factor for moving from one event to another, we can treat it as a bias probability for completing the event. So already at the first event, by studying the statistics of distribution, we can build a very simplistic model predicting the probabilities of going to the next event, and so on. And machine learning is actually a model which does same process at a much bigger scale and with more complex interactions modeled. So this is why we need feature engineering in the first place. It gives us a context data and a more signal to measure and to analyze to drive subsequently better predictions. So since Firebase is only able to analyze events one by one as a traditional way, we may play a different scenario here. We know that Firebase can be directly connected to BigQuery. It's a Google warehouse database capable of analyzing petabytes of data and very quick. And it also has a direct connection to AutoML algorithm. AutoML is exactly what its name reveals. It's an algorithm for machine learning which works completely independent, and it's easy to configure just throwing a table data at this algorithm. AutoML can model complex interactions of the data and predict the target parameter with a very good degree of precision. So since all these features are natively integrated, it sounds like a good plan to apply them in a pipeline of predicting lifetime value out of Firebase event data. Or this could be any other event data collected, say from AppsFlyer or other tool or internally. Once you arrive at a table of data, the process is pretty much the same, and even the algorithms can be exchanged. So just for the sake of simplicity, we are sticking to Firebase BigQuery AutoML scenario. And as a our test use case, I'd like to use Bingo Blast game data, which is available free from Google BigQuery as one of the shared data sets. And this is a nice game, slots game, by the way, which is positioned that the user travels to different exotic destinations and can play different games modeled around the destinations with some certain interface. So this game's data is available in BigQuery dataset, free to everybody to analyze. And this dataset is an export from Firebase event table. So, and it's rather complex, as you see from the first glance. Every row, it's a session of events for a user, and all the internal rows called events are quite complex structures. Event has dimensions, and every dimension has its parameters and values, and so on, convoluted in nested structures. So to extract the events, just simple event counts requires to self-join this table and unroll all the hidden data, and this makes quite a complex implementation, as you can see on this demonstration and on this animated demonstration. Every unwrapping, unnesting of internal arrays in event record effectively multiplies the amount of data and features which we subsequently want to aggregate. So it makes an easy task to decipher this data and make a nice flat table for analysis. So our solution scenario for this implementation will be quite straightforward. I will not pay too much attention on this right now, just because it will be more unraveled and repeated in the next webinar, and also available in record and in our slides. But the basic idea is to transform these convoluted features with a user-defined function and make them available as plain set of key value pairs, where keys are JSON keys and the values are correspondingly stored in a flat record available for a query. So this allows all the user features to be aggregated in one single row without repetitions, which allows to build a feature table. So this is a feature table desired for any kind of predictive modeling and advanced analytics, which for every user compiles the set of characteristics for in-game behavior, for outside features like context, like geographical, device information, and so others. And on the next webinar, we also will share how to include advanced append data features to make this analysis even more powerful. So we arrive at the table, which takes some features directly and aggregates them out of Firebase event data. Some features are extracted from precompiled record, and as an end result, a table which for every user ID key has a range of parameters allows us to build the predicted model. And AutoML is a very good tool to do so, because it scales to very big sizes of data set, up to 1 billion of rows, and it can accommodate from just 1 to up to 1,000 such computed features, and can build the class predictions just with 50 rows for each class, which is very important in case of modeling high-valued users, because these are usually rare, less than 5% of total audience. So having possibility to build a model with just a small set is very life-saving, I would say, for such application. And usually this model shows a very good performance results from up 10,000 to 100,000 rows of data. And just to conclude this part, there are a few hints which can improve your modeling and the feature collection. First of all, do not be afraid to use as many features as you have. Just model will be able to tell you which features are less performant, and you can gradually remove them. And features dependent on the target, like the total number of deposits, is not a very good idea to start with, because it reveals the target variable for the prediction, so makes this modeling example non-important. And including as many of context data as possible is also important, not just the user behavior in the app, but user device, language, and some other parameters can be good. And obviously, data cleaning and ensuring that the data is smoothly distributed and without obvious mistakes is also important. So once a model is trained, and this process is really easy, so I will not detail much there. So mostly it is one click away from building a model when you have a table in BigQuery. Model reveals some important metrics like distribution of predictions or error matrix, where we predict just a reduced use case, pair or non-pair. This could be LTV classes, high, mid, or low value. And as you see on the diagonal, model reports correctly predicting non-pair as non-pair in 97% of cases, pair as 80% cases. But these gray areas which show the confusion of the model are also important to analyze as a trade-off. For instance, you want in some cases to collect as many non-pairs as possible to predict them with a better accuracy to exclude from bidding, or you want to make this model biased more towards pairs to include as many of them as possible and make certain decisions in the app. Also, this model reveals a few important statistics on the accuracy, which can be further analyzed. And I'll stop there just to say that different accuracy metrics are better applied to different problems. So average volume under the curve or F1 statistics are good for classification problems. Root mean squared error are better to be applied for regression type problems. And the decision point, the boundary for predicting either one class or another, can be varied to accommodate your use cases. That is to include more one class or another class depending on the target implementation scenario. Finally, features. Unfortunately, we do not see this chart on the slide. Feature importance is also very nice to analyze. It reveals how every feature contributes to the end model decision. And on the slides which we will share, here we don't see the slide, unfortunately. You will notice that many of the user behavior in the app, many of such features make higher impact on the model compared to conventionally thought features like device price, like location, geographic, and language, and so on. So our just initial experiment with Bingo Blast data in Firebase reveals that user interests or interaction in the app are far more important engagement factors driving their decision to pay rather than their economical situation or like geographical position. So the more game features you include and engineer, the better. But these context features help to make your model just this much better, and make just squeeze the last bits of performance, which are important to make impact on the competing market, where every % of performance is crucial. So this concludes my part of presentation. I hope it wasn't too boring and not many people started to flock away from this webinar. I promise to share these charts, which are there in the, okay, we have some. Yeah.
So, Nick, I will read the conclusion because there are a couple of minutes left, and I want to make sure that the participants know what to do next. So first of all, you can join another episode that is going to happen exactly the same time next week, Friday, 2:00 p.m. Central European Time. We'll be sending this presentation, so let us know your feedback. We're really interested in knowing what did you like and what you didn't like, so we can still improve the next session. And also, I would like to encourage you maybe to invite us for the one-to-one conversation. I will be following up with the participants anyway. So I hope you enjoy that. To me, it's fun. We can present something that is very much industry related, share our experience. And I'm looking forward knowing more about you in detail soon. And in the meantime, I hope you enjoy your weekend. Nick, the last word of wisdom?
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, so everybody interested in the more advanced feature engineering and including additional data in the mix, please join our next webinar. I'm wishing you a nice weekend and productive week.
Thank you. Okay.